Namaskar. We are practicing meditation. Some of us practicing meditation every day. But what is the purpose? What is the goal? Of course, there are some small benefits of meditation, such as you improve your health, you become calm, you become happy, you develop intelligence, you develop better memory, you become wise, and so on. There are many, maybe over 100 benefits are there. But those are the small benefits. And what is the grand prix? What is the the final achievement? What is the ultimate goal of the spiritual practices? Since the time immemorial, spiritual seekers were aspiring to attain an ultimate state, the ultimate state actually, the state of absolute potency, complete knowledge, divine peace, eternal love, perfect bliss. So that state was described as an enlightenment, and it was described as liberation. And also, through the practical experience, spiritual seekers arrived to the understanding that actually I don't have to achieve anything, because within myself that perfect state is there. It is there. I am potentially enlightened, but something due to illusion of the mind, I'm not able to perceive that absolute state. It is a beautiful philosophy, actually it boggles my mind. First time when I heard it, I just couldn't sleep. I was thinking about it over and over. Somebody told me, a yogi looks into himself and sees the entire universe there. It was a logical contradiction. I thought, how you can look into yourself and see the entire universe there? Because I am part of the universe. In the kindergarten I learned that you take this smaller piece and you put in a bigger jar. That's how you fit things. And if the piece is bigger, let's say the piece of wood is bigger than the jar, you cannot fit it in the jar. So obviously I'm smaller than the universe. So I am contained in the universe. How can the universe ever be contained in me? And that's a beautiful mystery. But it is a practical experience of consciousness. On the physical level, on the level where things exist separately, it is impossible. But on the spiritual level, where not many, but just one exists, then everything is contained in that one. And that one, everything is composed of that one. So naturally, when you look when you look into your soul, you can find that completeness. Wonderful news. we carry that, like the Rumi, the great poet, he said, in one grain of millet, there are so many of the millet, millions of the grains. In one, through the eye of the needle, you can see the night full of stars. So in something very small, something very great exists. Wonderful news, beautiful. Okay, let's go home. Why need to do meditation? Because without meditation, we cannot arrive to that realization. It is there. It's just like a treasure. You have that treasure, but you don't know. You are living in the old house, and somewhere beneath the floor, there is a big chest of gold hidden. But you are not aware of that. You have to dig it out, and then you will discover it. So spirituality is the process of discovery. Discovery. Something was covered, and you discover it. Something was covered and you discover it. So what is covering? What is covering that which needs to be discovered? Is another concept. It is believed that the phenomena of ego covers the consciousness. What is ego? Ego is a demarcation line, your individual existence. The consciousness is infinite, but somehow the consciousness has chosen to identify itself with a fraction of its being, with a fraction of its existence. And that identification, that mechanism through which we maintain the individual identity, is called ego. In the water, there is a vessel full of water. In the vessel, there is water. Outside the vessel, also there is water. And it is the same water, but the vessel is there. So in the vessel, the water takes the shape of the vessel. If I break the vessel, then the water inside and outside will become one. It will attain its characteristic infinity. So similarly, if I manage to remove the ego, I will attain the state of infinity. There was one Buddhist nun. She practiced something which is called Zazen. So her name was Chiyono. In the 13th century in Japan she was living, and she was practicing. She was very eager practitioner. She was doing and doing, but she would not attain the final state. And one day she was carrying water in the bucket, and then suddenly the bottom of the bucket just fell out, and all the water also fell out. And then she was standing there staring at the water just by her feet and the empty bucket. At that moment she got grand realization, and then she wrote her enlightenment poem. She said, I was fixing with this and that my old bucket, but the bottom just fell out. There is no water in the bucket. There is no moon in the water. So it's a beautiful, beautiful comparison. I was fixing with this and that. I was trying to hold my ego structure together. I was fixing with this and that. But all of a sudden, it was just like, the ropes. They are binding a person, and he's rubbing the ropes. And invisibly, but the ropes, they become weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. You rub it and rub it and rub it through the process of awareness, through the process of trying to understand the consciousness, trying to understand your bondages. And then the moment comes, then the bondages snap, and no more. They are no more there. And suddenly you feel free. Is that? So that's what happened to her. There is this notion of sudden realization. And some people, some traditions even believe that just suddenly you get realized. You suddenly achieve enlightenment. Actually, it never happens like that. Because you have been rubbing the ropes. You have been doing something. You have been practicing meditation. And then the ropes were growing weaker and weaker. And one day it snapped. And then there is this impression that suddenly you got realized. It was not in meditation. She was just carrying the bucket. And the bottom fell. Okay, but how many buckets were broken in this world? But how many enlightened people are there? So it is a gradual process. It is a gradual process where you are elevating your consciousness, elevating your mind, making it subtler and subtler and subtler. And you arrive at the brink of the realization. And then anything which will just push you through that threshold may result in enlightenment or liberation. Okay, so the ego. how to remove the ego. Ego is maintained through the action of something which is called Avidya Maya. Avidya Maya, the illusion force of ignorance. Ignorance. I'm in ignorance. I'm ignorant about existence of spiritual world. I am only aware of my limited physical existence. So due to that ignorance, due to that limited awareness, I remain in the bondage. And actually, this is just the beginning. I just want to introduce the concept, and this class will be in 3 parts. One part is this introduction about the goal of yoga, the liberation and enlightenment and ego. And then other 2 parts is the enemies and the fetters of the mind. So Avidya Maya, the force of ignorance, works through the emotional forces playing within our mind. What are they? They are called 6 enemies and 8 fetters. 2 groups are there. Not everything in one box. There are 2 boxes. One is enemies, another one is fetters. Through these enemies and fetters, this force of ignorance holds a very strong grasp on our consciousness. And then consciousness has no chances to escape those enemies and fetters. It is bound to always be in ignorance, in darkness. And the way out of darkness, there is only one thing, is to do sadhana, a spiritual effort. Spiritual effort. Spiritual effort which has been taught by the competent preceptor. Sadhana given by the competent preceptor, the one who is already liberated. When the person is already enlightened, then that person can teach such sadhana which have the power to break that veil of darkness. So anyway, let's talk about the enemies and fetters. Why that in 2 different boxes? Enemies of the mind, they are inborn. When you are born, already, happily, they are there. They are part of us. And they are, when I analyze them, I understand that they are necessary for a living being to survive. So every creature on earth must have those enemies of the mind. And fetters of the mind, they are not inborn, they are imposed by society. By the virtue of birth, we are animals. But through education, we become humans. And part of that education is actually imposition of fetters upon us. Like, for example, there is okay, let's see. For example, there is greed, which is enemy of the mind. And then there is shame. So these 2 come together, neutralize each other. I'm very greedy, but I also feel shame. If I will misbehave at the table and take all the food for myself, people will think I am an animal and I shouldn't behave like this. So I feel shame. And then, so the shame will control the greed. And shame will control the lust. Shame will control the pride. So it's a powerful tool. But when you progress with spirituality, the moment comes when shame becomes not constructive. Maybe you have heard there is, yeah, of course you have heard, there is people call each other, "You shameless!" And it's supposed to be an like insult. But for a yogi, he will say, "Oh, thank you very much." If you say you are shameless, I will say, "Wow, I have achieved something." It's you develop conscience. At the next, the first evolutionary achievement is like shame. Society imposed the shame on you. But then there is something, and shame works with the society. If something is accepted in society, even you do something very wrong, but you do it together with other people, you don't feel shame. It is externally imposed. But then something internal develops, that is conscience. You just feel inside there is something wrong. Even though everyone does like this, but I feel this is not right. So then the fetters of the mind, they come in contradiction with the spiritual development. You feel this is right, but you fear that the society is going to reject you. And then you have to overcome the bondages of the mind, you have to overcome the fetters of the mind to progress further. So the stage comes when you need to overcome the imposition created by the society and move with your consciousness, with your soul, with the motivation which comes from the heart and not which comes from the external stimuli. So the enemies of the mind, they are inborn. There are 6: kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. Lust, anger, greed, attachment, pride, jealousy. And then there are 8 external imposed fetters: lajja, bhaya, grina, shanka, shame, fear, hatred, doubt, mana, kula, shila, the complex of culture, complex of descent, mana, jugupsa, vanity and hypocrisy. So those are externally imposed. And you have to deal them in a different way. With the enemies, what is the way to deal with the enemies? For example, you have the lust for drinking. You want to drink alcohol. And that is one kind of attachment, or it is a desire. In the next class, I'm going to talk more elaborately about each of the enemies. Just I'm giving examples now, just to understand. So for example, you are addicted to alcohol. So you have that desire in your mind, I want to drink alcohol. How to overcome that desire? Obviously, you have to stay away from the bars. If you go and sit in a bar and fight with your willpower, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to drink, by the end of the day you will drink. So it is advised to be as far as possible from the object which triggers in you the enemies of the mind. And at the same time, you need to channelize the energy of your mind towards a subtler object of enjoyment. You were enjoying on the physical level, now enjoy on the psychic level, on the intellectual level, now enjoy on the spiritual level. So that's the way. Physically, stay away from the objects which trigger the enemies of the mind. And then work internally to elevate the pabula of your mind. Pabula is a Latin word which means food. So the food that you enjoy, it was physical, now it is intellectual, and now it is spiritual. And it is work to elevate your mind so that it will be able to perceive a different reality. Yesterday I couldn't enjoy the aesthetics. I couldn't enjoy poetry, but I was doing sadhana and my mind has become subtle. Now I can enjoy it. And I become less dependent on the gross physicality. So this is the channel. Why they're called enemies? They're called enemies because they are enemies of the soul. Your goal is to achieve enlightenment, but their goal is to keep you in ignorance. So if you allow those forces, those emotional forces, operate within the arena of your mind, they maintain the crude vibration of the psychic world. And the mind remains crude. Crude means the diapason, the range of perception is very small, is extremely limited. And the happiness that you can enjoy is of extremely temporal and limited nature. So that's why they are enemies. Your goal is to achieve the state of infinite happiness, and the goal of the enemies is to keep you engrossed with something very, very limited and temporal, so that you don't dare to look at the side of spirituality. That's why they are the enemies of the mind. And the enemies of the mind have to be vanquished. But if you attempt to kill the enemies of the mind, you will kill yourself, because they are integral part of you. So killing is not working. There has to be a process of re-education of the enemies, so that they should become not enemies, but friends. And then bondages. Bondages externally imposed. And why they're bondages? Why they're fetters? They're like ropes. They don't allow you to move. You don't move backwards, you don't move forwards. You don't degenerate. You are not degenerating, but you're also not progressing. Yeah, because shame binds you and you feel like, okay, I should not do this nonsense. But at the same time, shame binds you. When you meditate, you feel shame. Well, what other people will say about me? It also does not allow you to progress. So those fetters, they have to be teared apart, and you have to become free man. But if you become free too fast, then you may degenerate. There is one particular sadhana I learned after 15 years of practicing my normal meditation. Then I learned some advanced meditation, which is only for monks, and it is not taught. Normally you have to really deserve it. And when I learned that practice, and I practiced for 3 days, just 3 days, then I realized that now I'm so free. I'm internally free. Means I don't care actually what other people think about me. I don't have shame. I don't have fear. And I found myself, I'm in trouble now, because still the enemies are there. So now the enemies will say, okay, now you don't have shame, don't have fear. Okay, let's go. Let's go something nasty, some nonsense. So I found that, wow, I need to really be very conscious and be very, very aware what I want to do. So they are not there for purpose, those fetters of the mind. And then there has to be liberation from both of this. There will be two fights which you wage in two directions. One is internal fight, another one is external. So Tantra is the process of liberation from dullness, from crudeness. And it is a fight. Spirituality is a fight. You are fighting in two directions. One fight is going inside of you. Is the fight to elevate your mind. Is the fight to substitute the crude thinking with the subtle thinking. You were full of physical desires for the limited objects, and now you are substituting with the great ideations, with the thoughts of service, with the thoughts of spiritual practice, with the mantra, with the ideation of the cosmic consciousness. And that is inner fight. The mind will try to pull back, but you are fighting to replace the crude ideation with the subtle ideation. It does not happen without struggle. It does not happen without fight. So sadhana is internal fight. An external fight is the fight with your fetters, with your shame, with your fear, with your hatred, so that you become free and you can act and you can do something great. So real spiritual practice is simultaneously the fight in two directions. So more or less, I think I have presented the idea of enemies and fetters, And they maintain the ego structure. Actually, our personalities, they are made from this. Some people, they say, I don't want to merge with God because I don't want to become sugar, I want to taste the sugar. I don't want to lose my personality because personality for long evolutionary journey, I have acquired this personality, so I don't want to lose it. It's attachment. It's another one kind of enemy. But you have to understand, what is this personality? It's nothing but 6 enemies and 8 fetters. So losing personality means becoming free from enemies and fetters. At that moment, when you become free from enemies and fetters, you cannot remain as individual. You cannot remain encapsulated in the small person. You become cosmic. You become large. And you are only what you are losing those limitations. And what you're acquiring infinity. So, in the next class I'm going to talk about enemies, and then the next class I'm talking about fetters of the mind. These are very important topics to understand, because through that understanding you will receive the guidance in your meditation. And there are so many mistakes that we can avoid if we properly understand our own nature. So in the next class I'm going to talk how to deal with the enemies of the mind, what we need to do to overcome those heavy emotions like anger, like greed, attachment, pride, and so on. So thank you very much. I hope I made things clear. So enlightenment is there, liberation is there as an absolute state, as the supreme good, and then it is within us. In the grain of sand there is entire universe. In me, in my soul, there is everything. I am not realizing that because the waters are very ruffled, they are very stormy, the waters of the mind. If the mind will become serene and calm, I will be able to see true, and I will be able to see the light of the Atma, the light of the soul, the completeness of the soul. But the mind being agitated by the enemies and fetters of the mind. That's why it is so stormy, and that's why I'm so unhappy. That's why I'm so agitated and not calm and worried and unsatisfied, actually. So it is a very important topic. Yeah, write in the comments. If I'm explaining something and I'm missing something and something is not clear, please write in the comments and I will try to answer, because I feel this is extremely important topic for the spiritual journey. Yeah, thank you very much. Let us make a break for now. In the next video we will come back to the enemies of the mind. Namaskar.